What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Super Hornet Podcast. We got a draft episode today because the lottery happened last night. I wanted to record last night, had some stuff come up, couldn't record. Recording tonight, so the day after the draft, I'm probably going to upload this in the morning just because it's a little late now to upload stuff. But yeah, we got the fourth pick. Very emotional roller coaster. I was live for it. And I was somebody personally, I'd have a lot of hope going to the lottery. I was like, we're probably get like the sixth pick. I was like, if we get the fifth pick, I'm cool with that. That was my prediction, the fifth pick. So then when they called the Jazz at 5, we jumped into the top 4. Well, not jumped into the top 4, but we remained in the top 4. I got kind of excited, and that commercial break between the 5 through 14 and then the top 4. I got really excited, and all the live stream were really excited, and they called her name at 4, and I kind of called it. I'm like, it probably like it was with Philly, with San Antonio, with Dallas jumping us, odds are we probably weren't going to get it. But man, a boy can dream. I'm going to do a whole breakdown of the entire lottery as well. Right after this, I'm going to record them back to back. They'll come out tomorrow at the same time, which will be today for you. But you know how it goes. YouTube's weird when you're trying to explain stuff. Well, I'm going to talk about the Hornets option with the fourth pick, and I'm going to call this episode like a little, inspirational or not inspirational, but like educational guide. Is like, so you got the fourth pick. So we got the fourth pick. What are the options for the Hornets? I think there's 3 options. I mean, there's only 3 options if you think about it, other than like selling the team, I guess. Still, one of the options happens if you sell the team. Is you either use the pick, you trade back, and you'll get a pick in the draft, or you trade the pick outright. So we're going to talk about all 3 of the options. I'm going to go in order for what I think is going to happen. Going to talk about some of the prospects just as the base level, what we have understanding for them now, and we're going to go from there. So first things first, you can trade the pick, right? You can use the pick. Sorry, I just wrote this. I do a little behind the scenes. I do a little script, kind of, not a script, but like I jot down ideas, and then you probably hear me click throughout the video. I click onto my Google Doc on the other screen, and like I still say my own thoughts, but it's a way to keep my thoughts organized. And I just wrote this all out, and trading the pick was the last thing I just wrote, and now we're going into this. But if we can use the pick as the first option, and what I think is going to happen. So there are a few prospects that I know are going to be attached to the Hornets a lot through this process. First pick, the pick that I think I'm most excited about for the Hornets is VJ Edgecombe. He's a guard out of Baylor. There was a lot of concerns about VJ because seems like an undersized guard. People said he looked short. I got to see him play in Raleigh against Mississippi State at Baylor, and he looked pretty small, but he had long arms, and he played bigger. So I was concerned. He was listed at 6'4" all year, and I was concerned, or he was listed at 6'5" all year. I was concerned he was going to be closer to like 6'2". He measured 6'4" without shoes on, and then he had a 40-inch vertical today. Dude's like a freak athlete, and he's relatively big. I have a Victor Oladipo comp for him, and he's actually taller than Victor Oladipo, which is actually a big deal. And he's a longer wingspan. He's a hard-nosed defender. I mean, he's a freak athlete with scoring upside. He wasn't a crazy scorer at Baylor, but man, he could do it. And at a high school, there was concerns about his shooting. He actually shot pretty well this year. But he's just like a freak athlete, man. I mean, I want you to watch all the highlights for all these guys if you're curious about the Hornets draft prospects. I watched tape throughout the year of these guys. I watched college basketball. Not like crazy. I'm more of an NBA head. If you see the light flashing behind me, I literally have the Denver Oklahoma City game on next to me, and this video will get paused if the game gets good. But the draft process, I watched a decent amount of college basketball, and I watched the guys who were going to be in the draft, especially we're going to talk about a couple Baylor guys, a couple Duke guys, and I saw them play in person, so I watched some stuff on them before I went and saw them play. But I implore you to watch all the tapes, and his tape is especially fun, especially his high school and college tapes. Dude jumped from the free throw line and dunked on somebody, like just crazy stuff, man. Like he just is a freak athlete, and you see these. I think athletes and guys who can do stuff are overlooked at times. I mean, I wasn't crazy behind the Thompson twins. Not saying that I didn't think they were going to be good, but they came out of the OTE. It was a league people had a lot of questions about, and they were great athletes, but they didn't have a lot of like shooting upside. And now they're obviously two of the best guys in the league, future of the league. I was wrong. I'm happy I'm wrong. I hope that every person I don't think is going to be good or think has bust potential, I hope they're all good. You know, we're going to talk about one of those guys here in a minute. But I root for everybody in the NBA. I want to see everybody succeed. I don't want to see anybody bust, anybody get hurt. So I didn't. I'm saying that obviously wrong about the Thompson twins, but he's not as big as they are. But God, he has the athleticism. I'm not saying he's as athletic as them, but he's very close. You know, he is slightly less athletic than them, and that's like saying you have a slightly less longevity than LeBron. You know, like some of the best athletes in NBA history. I mean, De'Aaron Fox said it on that one podcast. What was it? Was it the big? Was it? Oh my gosh, the Deep Three. Watch them; they're great. I didn't write that down, so you know, keep going back and forth. But he's on the Deep Three. He said that Amen Thompson's the greatest athlete, maybe in NBA history. So I mean, yeah, like these guys are ridiculous. So me saying that he could be close to them athletically is insane, and his motor is ridiculous. So I did a little video after going to the March Madness, talking about some of the prospects I got to see in person. Really high on Walter Clayton Jr. and he went from being a 50s pick to like, you know, pushing to be in the top 20, top 25. So that's cool to see that. But I talked about VJ Edgecombe being one of the most impressive prospects other than Cooper Flagg. And it was because of the things they both did on the sideline. VJ Edgecombe coaches his team off the bench on offense and defense, whatever side they're on when they're playing. Dude is always involved in the game. He was used as a distraction against Mississippi State, and they stuck him in the corner, and he was coaching his team running the offense while they had one guy marking him, and they had another guy watching him because he's that freaking good. And then he also was guarding the best people on their offense, and he switched 1 through 4, even guarded 5 for a minute at 6'4", which is ridiculous because their 5 was like 6'10", 6'11", and he's a big guy. But like their guard at Mississippi State had a guard named Hubbard. Forget his first name. He was shifty. Didn't score much on VJ. Their forwards didn't score much on VJ. Nobody scored much on VJ. And he feels like a very smart guy. He seems like he has a really good motor. He's a freak athlete. He has Charles Lee written all over him. He also shot pretty well from the field, which was a concern, like I said, which is just like, you know, what you want to see out of a guy for the Hornets. He doesn't have as much of a shooting upside as some of the other guys we're going to talk about, and that is a concern because of the offense we like to run. But I mean, still, he shot 34% from 3 on 4.6 attempts. That could be better, but that could also be worse. He was projected to be really bad coming out of there. He averaged 15 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, 3.2 assists. He also just makes all the little plays, man. Like he taps out a lot of rebounds. Every loose ball he's going after. Like he's just got a motor to him, and it's really fun to watch him play. And I hope he's a Hornet one day. I really think he's my number 1 prospect. I'm very excited about him. My number 2 prospect, though, I'm also very excited about. I think he's going to be very good in the league. That's Trey Johnson. He's a guard out of Texas. Came in at 6'4" 3/4, 6'10" and a half wingspan. So he's got long arms. He has like a Tyler Hero, Nick Young comp. Ridiculous shooter. Super shifty. He's a tough shot maker. He's just a bucket, man. Like, just a bucket. Like, that's all you can say. He isn't like people bash his defense, and I think his defense can be better, but I think he has the physicals to be a good defender, especially with Charles Lee as his head coach. I think he's going to be a good defender and a great shot maker for the Hornets if he ends up on the Charlotte Hornets. And he has shown flashes of good defense. But VJ Edgecombe is awesome because he attacks the basket, and that's something the Hornets need. Trey Johnson, while he can't attack the basket, is the opposite. But Hornets also need shooting like crazy. He doesn't have crazy assist stats, but his assist to turnover ratio is good, and he's a willing passer. He makes the right plays. He feels like a very smart passer. He's not running the offense, but you know if he's going to the hole, he's very aware of the defense. He's going to read defenses. A guy comes up on him, he's dishing the ball down low to the big man, or you know, and then you get used to that, and then he attacks the basket that way. he doesn't attack basket at a high rate. But dude, he makes ridiculous shots, like the most ridiculous shots you've ever seen. My cat wants to be in the video, but he like I said, watch all these guys tape. But if you look up, Trey Johnson highlights freshman year, you're going to be very impressed. He's very fun to watch. Him and VJ, both freshmen, both young guys, going to grow with the team. And I think both VJ and Trey Johnson, there's room for improvement for them. And I think Trey Johnson's defense can improve. And then I think my cat wants to be. You don't see her, but she just walked in front of my computer screen right here. So Trey Johnson needs to improve on his defense. VJ needs to improve on his offense. But you have they still have a sure thing in the league. Like, they're going to be good at least something. And I think the Hornets are going to look to draft a more certain prospect, a more guaranteed prospect, especially after getting Tijon Salon, which everyone hates that pick. I've talked about it a lot. Tijon, it was perceived weak drafts from the guys late popped off, but they're kind of older picks or, question mark picks like Jared McCain and Dalton Connect. But it was a weaker perceived draft, and they took a swing on a high upside prospect. I love Tijon. I'm rooting for Tijon. I hate that he gets such a bad rep with the Hornets community. Anyways, we're talking about future draft picks, not former draft picks. But both these guys have certain things that are going to be good that fans will like. Trey Johnson is so shifty. He's a great shot maker. He'll be a good secondary ball handler with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. Take some pressure off Brandon Miller, because we wanted to see Brandon Miller's handle improve. And he has a decent handle, but he has his moments. I would say that Trey Johnson is a much better ball handler, or projects to be a much better ball handler than Brandon Miller. That's just more competent to him. So the Tyler Hero comp is definitely real. He has some plays. His spin move's ridiculous. His step back's ridiculous. So having another ball handler with LaMelo and with Brandon Miller, is awesome. We're going to move either one of these picks. We're going to move Brandon Miller to the 3 at 6'9". That, I like him as a shooting guard, but he can also play small forward very well. He's very tall, very lengthy. But that's the nice thing about having Brandon Miller on your team is that you can draft a 2 or a 3, and then we can make it work around him, which is, very helpful. The next guy I think has the lowest upside, but definitely is the most sure thing in the NBA, at least for what he does. It's Con Kneppel out of Duke. I don't know if I want to take him at 4, but we'll talk about the trade back potential with that, and talk about him with that. But he's 6'5" with barefoot, 6'6" and a quarter wingspan. He's a better shooter. I was talking about good of a shooter. Trey Johnson was. I didn't even mention his stats. He shot 40% from 3 and averaged 20 points in the SEC, which was the best conference in basketball, at least during the regular season. And he, Con Kneppel's a better shooter than that. He shot 41%. He didn't make as many tough shots, but you got to remember Con Kneppel was on a roster that was pretty stacked. You had, Cooper Flagg, obviously, Tyrese Proctor. You have Isaiah Evans. You have Sion James. You have Isaiah Evans is going back to the draft, back to the college, but you had 6 guys who were going pro from that team until he pulled out of the draft. So there wasn't as much pressure on Con Kneppel, but he can still handle the ball well. He's a good passer. Didn't take as many tough shots, but like I said, but he's still a great shooter. He's going to be great in the flow of the offense of the Hornets. He also attacks the basket better than you would think. He's very shifty inside. Makes some really tough layups. Had a couple dunks. He's not a crazy athlete, but he has a good motor. I think he seems like a guy who will rise to the occasion of being on the Hornets. He has like the elite role player mold. I think he could be a guy. You see all of these championship caliber teams have all these really good guards and forwards like 2 3s who can shoot the ball and play some defense and be athletic and all that stuff. Your Aaron Nesmiths, Peyton Pritchard's more of a 1, but guys like that, he fits that mold in my brain of like a guy who can hit 3. Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, guys who can shoot the ball well, play some defense, make the right passes, and every team needs somebody like that. I think he's going to be a guy who contributes to winning basketball, and I'm very excited to see him. He didn't have a crazy game when I saw him play at the one Duke game I went to, but he had a really good year. I said he was on a team with 6 pro guys. And, he felt that. I think he's going to be a guy who can average 12 to 15 in the league, shooting high 30s, low 40s from three, being a guy who, he feels like a solid dude on a roster. And I don't know if I want him at 4, but if the Hornets trade back, which we're going to talk about in a minute, he's a guy I would heavily consider. There's also Kaman Malawach, another guy. I'm more maybe like a trade down candidate, but we know the Hornets might want to trade Mark Williams. They already did once, and this guy's massive. He's 7 foot and 3/4 barefoot with a 7'6" and 3/4 wingspan and a 9'6" standing reach, which is very similar to what Mark Williams had. He's not my first pick. I only think we make the pick if Mark and Dirk are moved. He's a raw prospect, but he's a big man, a very big man. Like I said, saw Duke play in person. I've seen Wemby play in person. He's not as tall as Wemby or as long as Wemby. He's a bigger guy than Wemby because he's very close to the height of Wemby and the length of Wemby relatively. But he's also wide. He's strong. He hits some threes. He's has like upside with that. I don't love his game, but I could see him if he gets to the right place with the right people. I could see him being a very solid big in the in the draft. He could be a guy who gets some polish on him and he could shine. Like I said, another trade back candidate potentially for the Hornets, especially if you're trading Mark Williams. And there's one more guy I want to talk about, a guy I do not want the Hornets to draft. Like I said, I root for everybody to do well. I hope this guy kills it, right? I hope this guy's amazing. But it's Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey was listed at 6'10" all year at Rutgers. The measurements came in 6'7.5". A lot of his upside was the fact that he looked like he was 6'10", tall, lengthy. Kevin Durant kind of comps. Him being 6'7.5" with I think he had a 6'8" or 6'9" wingspan, really killed a lot of his draft stock. And he was a guy, boomer bust. He also plays very similarly to Brandon Miller. There's a lot of overlap with their games. I just think that there are better people for the Hornets to go after. If he's the guy there at F4, I hope we trade back. He's not a guy that I'm really excited about. We will have to see. And I'm rooting for him. But I just know if he goes to the Hornets, he's not going to pan out. That's just how the Hornets are. And I'd rather have a more sure thing. I'm cheering for Ace Bailey. I like Ace Bailey. I like his game. I think he could be very good. But the fact that he could also be very bad scares me really badly. And that's the reason I don't want him personally. So rooting for him. Hope nothing but the best for Ace Bailey. But yeah. Second option we have for the pick is we could trade back. I mentioned guys like Con Knepel and Kaman Malawach. There's also a few other guys I could look at maybe trading back for. The only thing is right now, the combine just started today. We don't know what teams are going to want guys. Everyone just found out where they're drafting, and they're going to look at these guys in the combine around where they're going to pick them, maybe up higher. We'll have to see, if a team falls in love with a guy, team falls in love with Trey Johnson, and, we're maybe not as in love with him, you trade back. There's a couple guys, like I said, Kaman Malawach or Con Knepel, who might be there at 7, 8. I don't really know where these guys are going to fall. I don't know if they fall that far, but, somewhere like there. I actually don't even know who picks there. Now that I'm thinking about it, take it on. 7 is New Orleans. 8 is Brooklyn. I haven't looked. I want to see who likes what players. All that stuff kind of leaks out. You kind of see what that. I can talk more about who it is, but it's just an option for the pick. I don't really know much information yet. We're still learning. There is a guy that I haven't mentioned yet who I could see could be fun for the Hornets. It's Rasheer Fleming out of St. Joseph's. He came in at 6'8" with a 7'5.25" wingspan. That's ridiculous. I don't know what else to say. He just was amazing, right? And he also shot 40% from 3. He has great defensive upside and could be the future 4 of the Hornets, especially if the Hornets look to move off of Miles Bridges. He's just a great athlete. He looks fun. I don't know. I watched his tape before because I was trying to find out some sneaky guys, especially because the Hornets have picked 33 and 34. I was looking at end of the first round guys, early second round guys. He kind of was sitting there. Now I think he's going to be like a back of the lottery guy, just because of the measurement, especially if he tests well, he shoots well. or like has a good combine, like he could be a top 12 pick. Chicago, what's up? You can have the 4th pick. Feel bad for Chicago. I'm gonna talk more about them in the full breakdown of the lottery here, but there's only a few guys I would think about trading back for, but I would, you could either add draft capital or I don't know what this team wants to do. I want to see direction now. We know what we're picking. I want to see what direction the team is going in. I need there to be a direction. I need them to commit to it, and I need to know what to expect. So if we are, trading back and we get draft capital, might be telling you that, might be a few more years out. We trade back and add some depth. Who knows, I hope we keep a pick in this lottery or keep a pick in this draft because I think this draft is going to be pretty good. But we'll have to see. And then there's one more option with the pick. It's trade the pick outright. I'm really only thinking about that if sorry, my cat is running around like a crazy person. I'm really only want to trade out of this draft if we're adding a really good young piece or a 3rd star. A couple guys come to mind. Like, I don't know if San Antonio has a 2nd pick. I don't know if they're going to, draft Dylan Harper and then have 3 guards and maybe look to trade off of like Stephon Castle. If we can trade 4 for Stephon Castle and some other stuff, I would love that. I don't think that's going to happen. That's just first guy that comes to mind. I haven't thought too hard about all this stuff, but that's a guy you could think about. But mostly trading pick 4 would be for a Zion or a Giannis or somebody else. There's one more guy who just became a question mark last night. First off, prayers up for Jason Tatum, but Jason Tatum tore his Achilles. He had surgery today. Hoping for a speedy recovery. I talked about it on my shows before. Wasn't the biggest Tatum guy just for his off the court stuff, but knew he was always a baller. Started giving him real praise this postseason, and then he tears his Achilles. So prayers up, and I feel bad. But now the Celtics aren't going to be good next year. Not going to not be good, but they're not going to be contenders next year. You have a new ownership group. You're crazy in the luxury tax, and you've been talking about having to trade people anyways. Now you have overpaying Porzingis, overpaying Drew Holiday for the next 3 years, and you're not really going to get real assets out of those guys. I think, you're mostly going to just trade them to get off the contracts. So there's a real world where if you try to, improve the roster, especially for Jason Tatum coming back, you might look to trade Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown would be freaking awesome on the Hornets. A 3-and-D, not even 3-and-D. What am I saying? He's just like a great basketball player. He plays great defense. He's a good shooter. He can attack the basket. Obviously the Celtics players have complaints about him, but he's on a championship level team. He's playing meaningful basketball every night. He can help the Hornets do that. If you have a lineup of him, LaMelo Ball, and then you have, Brandon Miller and Mark Williams, and then, you probably run Grant at the 4 because you're probably trading Miles Bridges for him. Like, that'd be freaking awesome. That'd be awesome. Like, why? That'd be amazing. And that'd make me very happy. And, he could just be a great candidate for the Hornets. I don't know if he's going to be available. And there could be other guys who become available. I mean, I'm not trading the 4th pick for Domantas Sabonis, but he's probably going to be available. I'm not trading the 4th pick for DeMar DeRozan, who was announced today that he was, in trade talks. But, a young guy, he fits more of the timeline for the Hornets. I think he's like, 27? Maybe younger than that. I don't actually know how old he is. How old is Jaylen Brown? He's 28. But, he fits the timeline a little better, makes the team better. Charles Lee coached him before. He played with Grant Williams before. We just have to see, but, there's a world where you trade, Mark Williams for him if you're trying to get out Porzingis too. Mark Williams, the 4th pick, another pick, something else, maybe Nurkic for the contract. And, I don't know how I feel about the roster for the Hornets. This is going to be, we're kind of done with the lottery stuff and all that stuff. I'm disappointed at 4. We could have been worse. We could be the Wizards. We could be the Jazz. The Jazz likely sucked all year for Con Kneppel or, Trey Johnson or Ace Bailey. And Ace Bailey could be an upside. I think Ace Bailey might go 3. We'll talk about that more in my other video. So both are going to be up about the same time. So please watch both. I would appreciate that. But, I really want a Cooper Flag, man. What else can you say? I want a Cooper Flag. But I just hope this team, I watched the videos with Charles Lee, watched them with Jeff Peterson, talking about everything, with the future of the team. And Jeff Peterson was disappointed about not getting the first pick, but we're gonna, he said something like, "Was this what we do all year for? Is for this, these picks, or now we're gonna find out who we're gonna take?" And obviously that just shows that the Hornets they weren't gonna compete this year. The real question is, are they going to compete next year? I think there's a couple teams who are going to fall back, a couple teams are going to move forward. And I hope the Hornets can be one of those teams who takes a step forward. I don't really know. Every year it gets a little harder to be a Hornets fan. And it's just going to be I just know it's going to be rewarding when we're good again. So I think that's going to be it for the Hornets talk. Thank you so much for watching. Lottery didn't go the way we wanted it to. I'm a little bummed about all the results, but I'm very excited for the future of this team, even if I don't sound it. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry, my cats have been demons this video. Oh my God, look at they about to fight. But thank you so much for watching. Enjoy basketball, and you guys have a great rest of your day.